What's the role of key squares in pawn promotion? Have you ever wondered how a simple pawn can turn into a powerful queen? The answer lies in key squares. So, what exactly are key squares, and how do they influence pawn promotion? Let's break it down. Key squares are specific squares on the chessboard that, if occupied by your king, guarantee that your pawn can promote to a higher piece, regardless of where the opponent's king is positioned. This means controlling these squares is essential for safely escorting your pawn to promotion. The location of the pawn on the board determines which squares are considered key. For pawns positioned on ranks 2-4, the key squares are typically the two squares directly ahead of the pawn. If your king can reach any of these squares, it can support the pawn's advance and eventually occupy the promotion square. As the pawn moves further up the board, especially when it reaches the 5th rank or beyond, the key squares become more specific. These squares are closer to the promotion rank. When your king occupies these squares, it can effectively block the opposing king from capturing or stopping the pawn, ensuring that promotion occurs. The type of pawn also plays a role in determining key squares. Rook pawns, which are located on the A file or H file, have fewer key squares. For instance, if you have a white pawn on the A file, the key squares would be B7 and B8. If your king can control these squares, it can keep the opponent's king at bay and support the pawn's promotion. On the other hand, central pawns and knight pawns have a wider range of key squares. These pawns often have multiple squares ahead and around their path that can be considered key. This gives them more options for promotion, making it important to understand which squares to target. The practical importance of key squares cannot be overstated. If your king can reach a key square, you can force the pawn's promotion, regardless of how your opponent tries to defend. Conversely, if your king fails to occupy a key square, the opponent may successfully block or capture your pawn, preventing promotion. In essence, mastering the concept of key squares is vital for converting a material advantage in pawns into a winning position. By understanding and controlling these squares, players can effectively promote their pawns into queens or other pieces, which is a key strategy in king and pawn endgames. So, keep an eye on those key squares as you navigate your endgame strategies.